Blessed love and peace. It's a joint to share. Recent convos, recent reasoning, recent revelation, recent. So, trying briefly, succinctly, by the grace of the Most High, Elohim Jah, blessed love and peace, Rastafari. Now, this is the joint. We begin by reviewing recent joints about life, categorization of life based upon behavior with the intentionality of harmony, and looking at the first distinction of life on earth as between the stationary life and the mobile life. Stationary life being predominantly plants and the mobile life being predominantly animals. Then from that, amidst the mobile life, the categories of quote-unquote ego sentience, the things that, the distinctions that require further amounts of ego-based sentience, cognition capabilities. So at the first level of the mobile life, we have the life that grazes, that just finds nourishment around oneself, plants primarily, essentially, effectively, in this categorization, and just eating that, grazers. Then the next category, second level dose, is the gatherers, those that see the methodology of storing things for seasons, and additionally, that takes a further level of sentience, presumably, effectively, ego sentience, to store things away. So gathering. Next category is hunters, the animals that observe the gatherers, observe the grazers, and eat the other animals. Next level of ego sentience, but not the highest. So after that we have agrarian, and this is discussable, but effectively agrarian beings, predominantly human beings, agriculture, which is manipulating, controlling, quote unquote, plant life for one's own benefit and utilizing it accordingly. So agriculture. Then that's the fourth level. Then the fifth level is domestication. So domestication is basically the next level of agriculture, whereby instead of just manipulating and controlling plants, the mobile life, it's manipulating, controlling mobile life, other animals, other ego sentience. And again, these levels 4 and 5 are predominantly within the human species on this earth, presumably, effectively, kind of, sort of. But that's not the highest. Many human beings seem to think that's the highest, domestication, and then become enveloped in the predatoriness, the intra-species predatoriness of manipulation and control. But the next level is beyond that, which is the sixth level, and that is altruism. Connecting, it's a transcendence, it's existential, and it is a recognition of the well-being of all, and not being predatory towards any other life, particularly other humanoid life in this particular context. So that's the hierarchy, and the notion about the altruistic stage of ego sentience, that level of hierarchy in the hierarchy, is that the actual behavior is very similar to that of the trees, the stationary life, being still, emphasizing stillness, accepting what is provided, providing what one has, abstaining from imposing physical force or otherwise on other life, kind of, sort of, because if you look at certain plants, like, we see a lot of things that are actually rather like tenacious, but again, that's another conversation. So that's the general gist of it. Now, recognizing that sixth level, altruism being the highest, we can look at that and call that another word, piety, and we can make, again, this is focusing on behavior and action, and focusing on, like, just so that those entities, those beings, that life that is less predatory or otherwise, can better understand the life that is predatory and live accordingly. One is not better than the other. Both are holy. Both come from God, but both live in a different way, and they're different natures of being well in each of those respects. And so again, in the interest of harmony and well-being, the optimal experience of harmony and well-being for all life, it's beneficial for a life that it's not predatory to have an understanding about all the different types of life, and to approach the relationship and the interaction and even cooperation with the other life as well. So anyways, piety and predatory. So piety is that altruism. It's that benevolence, the kindness for others. And again, looking at human beings on this earth, the vast majority of kinfolk, I have to be careful of that because I have yet to meet the vast majority of people. Reportedly, based upon communication and everything else, people are predatory. The vast number, I'll say vast number, I won't say majority, but I'll say vast number of people are predatory. And the thing about it is that people abstain from being, the vast number of people who are predatory for the vast amount of the time are not predatory. How does that make sense? Because those that are predatory spend the majority of the time, the vast amount of one's time, not being predatory. And it's that predatory behavior is only on occasion. It's an eventuality, and oftentimes it's involuntary, working for the military or other things like that, that are imposing financial debt, and additionally. So a lot of it is involuntary, and then even beyond that, it's also occasionally. It might be once every few years. It might be once in a life, just to like prove one's worth in a community or whatever else. But there is that eventuality, there is that proclivity and otherwise. So it's still predatory, and the benefits that are gleaned from it are tend to be continual. So recognizing that. Now there are if we look at human beings as like subspecies, like species that are piety, and then species that are predatory, subspecies that are predatory, subspecies that are piety. There are piety from all different walks, from all different races, ethnicities, religions, and additionally, and there's the predatory within every religion, every ethnicity, and additionally as well. So the consideration is for those who have the inclination towards being like thoroughly piety, to recognize the benefit of connecting with other kinfolk who are thoroughly piety as well, regardless of what their background is, and to recognize what that behavior is, and how each one coming from the different backgrounds and additionally has nuanced ways of practicing that piety, and to have the courage, the perseverance, the strength to progress beyond the limitations, the confines that exist within the different communities that are predatory, and dedicate kinfolk selves to that harmonious piety, that harmonious path of piety that transcends the ethnicities and religions and languages and nationalities and all them other things. So the piety, what I share from this walk and this side of the circle is the Panchasilas that the Buddha shares: peace, sharing, chastity, honesty, sobriety. There are additional principles as well: truth, love, modesty, all them things, the positivity things, the things that seem like very difficult to be sustainable 100% of the time. It actually is. And actually we have guidance from this. The piety of within humanity exists for thousands of years, since time immemorial. So there's strong precedent, there's strong foundation, there's strong details, specifics about how to live and how to build with others. So that's the consideration about the ego sentience of life, the distinction of piety and predatory within the category of human beings, and then from that we go into this joint. The whole, well, I'll put it like this. How the world system is. This is the recent conversation. What methodology of governance, what system of governance is most applicable to the world system beyond the nations, the world system today? Some people say democracy, some people say capitalism, this, that, and the other. Some people say plutocracy, some people say oligarchy, some people say monarchy. What I share at this moment, that is the one of the recent joints, is the world system being a pedocracy, meaning ruled by the children. And it's not some kind of thing of like children being the dictators or whatever, and like just calling the shots. That's not the nature, and that's not how it works. It's very indirect. But to understand how the nature of that rule, that system of rule, governance, it's a matter of understanding what the conditions are at this moment. And we can talk about the power that exists within children, the power that exists within youth, how conventional, I won't say conventional authority, I'll say how the leadership within convention endeavors to pander to children, pander to youth, market to youth, corrupt youth, and additionally, for the interest of gaining energy, for gaining influence, and further. So this is ancient, this is thousands of years old. But at the moment when we have these devices, the interweb, and additionally, I'm not. This isn't a time for jokey joke. But when we have the internet, and additionally, the nature of these ancient experiences is comparatively new. So it's a matter of understanding it as it is. So the basic. I'll try to say this very succinctly and very basically. Understanding the power that exists with you beyond youth's knowledge of it and beyond youth's understanding of how to utilize that power, because it's beyond it's anyways. The recognition is how the machinery, the machinery of manipulation and usury and predatoriness, and additionally endeavors to feed off of that youthful energy, off of that youthful vibrance, and however we want to describe that experience, power. Feeding off of it. I'm trying to abstain from delving too specifically into like the mechanics to talk about the point that I'm getting to, but it requires some further explanation about how that works. So, those that tend to be increasingly influential within the machinery of society also are increasingly feeble in terms of physicality, and rely upon methodology systems of corruption and manipulation. Yes, threats, violence, torture, other things like that, oppression. But eventually, at some point, the necessity is usurping energy. And that usurping of the energy abstains from happening primarily by force. It happens through the feigned volition of the victim. It's corruption. So it's a matter of enticing the victim through money, through food, access, other things. And then draining draining the energy from that being. Pedophilia, cannibalism, and otherwise. it's an ancient thing, it's a contemporary thing. I won't say it's not an eternal thing. I can say it can be expected to continue on one way or another, but I'm getting to a point here, and I have to like focus on that. So I'm just going to continue with the point, and then perhaps there may be the occasion of further explaining like the cause and effect about what I'm talking about in terms of like withdrawing the energy from the youth through those woeful means. But for the moment, what I'll say is that there's a power within the youth I'll just continue on. So there's a power within the youth, and the internet is the current methodology through which these transfers are being facilitated, bodily, but also mentally and quasi-spiritually. Okay, this is how I'll explain it. In a democracy, in ancient Greece, there was the practice of the pedophilia. It was systematic. It was regularized. It was normalized. And the term, the explanation is that how the term mentor describes a man who is basically there's an agreement between a pedophile man who's hierarchy in a hierarchy of society, and then a family, and the parents agreed to have for the son, the young boy, to be a sexual partner to that man, and the man provides that boy with guidance about how to rise through the ranks of society. So it was thousands of years ago. It's part of the democracy. It's part of what happens when the fabric of traditional family is erodes, particularly with the emphasis of individualism, and so that's thousands of years, and that's today. So that's a specific example, and I've described that before. So what does the pedophile get from that? It's not just a matter of sexual gratification. It's a matter of the energy that the boy yields to the man, and I mean, there's all the types of psychological things, ego things, and selfishness, and everything else like that. But all that's part of it. So that's thousands of years ago. That's today. That's the internet. It happens through the internet. Okay. Buenos noches. So that is one example of the power that exists within youth, and how that power is drained in a woeful way toward to the hierarchy, or to the established methodologies of influence within society. There's a greater power. All right. I have a number of things to share, and I'm trying to connect I'm trying to connect the logic between these things. So, well, I'm just gonna like articulate it, and maybe again, like I said before a second ago, I'll try to like explain the link between it before. But right now, at this moment, what's happening is that the youth with the energy, and how the system is, the internet is just an extension of the systemic methodologies of selfishness, competition, all that other type of stuff, exploitation, everything else like that. And so the youth are increasingly a target because youth have increased amount of power. When people within society become corrupt, even not just the hierarchy, but even just ordinary people become corrupted, become silent, not being just, not caring about justice. There's a weakness coming. There's the vitality is dissipates, and so the energy, the mass energy, becomes increasingly concentrated amidst the aggregate within the children, within the youth, and so the exploiters, the predatory elements within humanity, the interspecies predatory, focuses increasingly on youth and children. Now, back in the day, it manifests itself in increasingly direct ways, but now with the advent of technology and further, it manifests itself particularly and predominantly, significantly within communication, social media, and additionally. And so what we observe is how the power within youth, and again, the innocence, and nobody's innocent in this life, but the comparative innocence of youth being exploited and it being subject to the predatoriness systemically and normalized through these things of social media, and additionally TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all the joints. So there's the exploitation. Now that's on one side, but there's a flip side to it as well, because when these leaders, these elite within society, whether it's the plutocracy, the mega billion trillionaires, whatever, the family, the families for generations, conspiracy cats, and additionally, whoever they are, they still are needy. They still need things. They still need that energy and the methodology. And so even when the kinfolk have all the manipulations, control governments, control all the big weapons, control the technology and everything else, still need cooperation, still need that systemic methodology of getting the energy. So that's continuous. It's a symbiotic relationship. So when the youth are previously exploited, and additionally the youth are also empowered. The youth have a chip, not a chip in the game, but have leverage amidst that hierarchy, and so that the individual children, the individual youth who are being exploited, it's not a matter of them saying, "Oh, okay, now I'm going to call the shots," but psychically, psychologically, telepathically, tacitly, intrinsically, and thoroughly, substantially, significantly, severely have power and control over the quote-unquote powers that be, wherever they at, the plutocracy, oligarchy, families, billionaires, whatever, militaries, dictators, and everything else. The children who are being exploited, and that culture that's being exploited, has power over the kinfolk in that telepathic, in that psychic and spiritual sense as well. So that's actuality, that's facts, and that power also exists in the intermediaries as well, which is why adults become increasingly attached to these devices, and why kinfolk like myself are doing these type of joints, because everybody's enveloped in the game, and everybody who's connected with technology, whatever, is influenced by this as well. And so this is just further testimony and evidence of the influence that is had. So I do my best to promote the well-being, and so I'm articulating what I understand as truth for the benefit it serves for those who are prepared for it. So there's the symbiotic nature within the exploitation, and that is the manner in which society, the world system, exists at this moment as a pedocracy, and it's a psychic, spiritual, telepathic significant, severe, tremendous power. It's not a quid pro. It's not an immediate, tangible quid pro quo. That's not the way it works primarily. But it works in ways that are extremely influential. And additionally, now part of the challenge is that youth abstain from having the wisdom and the knowledge and the guidance of how to utilize the power, how to use that power, and so it becomes the wilderness. And those those youth that do become aware of the game and do have some knowledge tend to be, particularly at a younger age, the ones who are corrupted. And it can be very easy for youth who are corrupted and just see so futility, but have knowledge and chips in the game and have leverage and can call cats out, to just do that to rise up the ranks of the predatoriness. And so some become quiet and reserve and kind of just observe and kind of like be low key or whatever else, and just trying to like see. But when they see evidence of things, support it as much as can on the QT, because when cats are vocal and when cats are open about this thing, that's targetation. So, all right. I don't even know how much is gonna last or how much energy how much storage I got on this joint. Energy, whatever. Potato. All right, brother. So that's part of the nature of, that's part of the description of the nature of the pedocracy that exists at this moment. And I'm going to share some historical things that give this context and give it some corroboration. Again, when we look at the Republic beforehand, the rifeness of pedophilia within democracy thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, and additionally, what happens is that there's no way of defeating. There's very little way of defeating a republic, a democracy, because it's already self-defeating itself. It's designed that way. And so it's just a matter of like waiting for it to just corrode. And eventually, historically, what happens is that the barbarians arrive, and the barbarians who are physically stronger are able to eventually overcome the organization of the republic, because the republic becomes too decadent, too corrupted, too weak, physically, mentally, spiritually, heartfully, and additionally, so that it succumbs eventually to the comparatively primal methodologies of the barbarians. That's the historic example of China, Greece, additionally. Now today, the actuality is that the world is enveloped in the republic system, and so the nature of the barbarians is not, even the barbarians, the nature of the barbarians is different, and so that's one thing. Because anybody who's using technology that's beyond what they can do themselves, that's not barbarian. That's not the lifestyle. The lifestyle of the barbarian is self-sufficiency and making one's tools oneself, one's weapons oneself, and everything else like that. Anybody who's relying upon technology, even a gun, even a knife, even a sword, that's done by somebody else, that's not barbarian lifestyle. That's not the barbarian life. So those are cats that are basically enslaved within the systemic way of the Republic science, and additionally, that's not the barbarians. So the nature of the barbarian, there still are barbarians, but the nature of the power of the barbarian is increasingly along those same lines as I mentioned: mental, telepathic, spiritual, and additionally. And the influence, it's serious, because the people who are in the hierarchies of society at this moment are very susceptible to suggestion and to those types of mental telepathic powers, and additionally. So the nature of the barbarians, they live in remote places, untouched by human civilization or whatever else, primarily. But at the same time wield a significant amount of power, not even trying to do so, but there's that. We can talk about the powers that animals have, and that's getting a little bit like next level type stuff or whatever, but that's serious. The disease, and additionally, it wields significant influence within the hierarchies of the world system. But again, the suggestion and the influence of children and youth is significant within the mechanics of the world system. So I gave the historic example of Greece, of how like the Republic is eventually overcome in that respect. The other example, the other paradigm of governance is the monarchy. And the thing about the monarchy and the thing about the power of the youth and child of the monarchy is that there's always the focus on the youth. There's always the focus of the king having a child, a son predominantly, and then the vying of all right, brother. the vying of getting approximate with the emerging core, the next generation of the monarchy, and additionally. So again, the focus is still on the child and youth, and additionally, and politicking, and additionally, for increasing favor. But the mechanics of that, how it translates amidst the court, amidst society, amidst the nobles, and additionally, is very different from the republic and from democracy, and additionally. So, all right. And the monarchies have been significantly marginalized within the past century, particularly in the past couple of world wars, and it's been intentional, and additionally because of the rise of the methodology of democracy, the republic, and science. So, but now things are adjusting, and there's a fluctuation. But that's just another example of monarchy, and again the nature of the energy, the youth energy, the child energy, but focusing on the monarchy, the monarchic family. Clans and tribes, particularly with the native tradition, Africa as well, is an interesting thing. I'm going to leave that aside, to be honest, because my knowledge about that is comparatively modest. I think that's actually a very promising solution. Actually, I won't say promising. It's a very beneficial solution, but I have to pause the emphasis of that because, again, my knowledge about that, my detailed knowledge about that, is comparatively modest. But that is part of the solution. We can look at filial piety within ancient China, all the way up through to the past century. Again, with the monarchy, with the empire, or the emperor, and additionally. But I'm sharing right at the moment some traditional conventional methodologies of governance and how this pertains to the experience of children, youth, and the relationship that children and youth have with the hierarchy within the conventional system, and then how these things evolve, the rise and fall, typically within these systemic methodologies of governance. So, and how this further substantiates the description of the world system existing at this moment as a pedocracy. What I'll share is I'm just going to give an example of Jesus. When Jesus talks about Jesus exists within a quote unquote democracy, republic, however you like, the Roman Empire, and so Jesus experiences that phenomena of the methodology of governance, and whilst much of Jesus's condemnation is towards the Pharisees, who are the religious leaders from the tradition of Israel. There's also, Jesus intrinsically addresses the experience of democracy and the republic as well. And one of the things that Jesus communicates is that the people, when people make accusations towards him, when the leaders, the teachers, in addition make accusations towards Jesus, Jesus says, well, your accusers and your judges are your children. And that's who's going to be the ones that make decisions, and additionally. So, assalamu alaikum. So, there's further evidence about the power and the rule that exists within the will of the children, beyond the want of the children. That's just the nature of it. That's much of it at the moment. That's what I have, and the hour's getting late. The sun is dipping, or the earth is tilting. So, all right, bro. That's part of the consideration for the morning. It's been half an hour at this joint. Wow, it's time for me to go off this joint and return. So, one thing I'll share whilst I prepare this is that part of the challenge that parents experience at this moment is, at this very moment, the benefits that are conferred through pedophilia. Meaning that today, at this moment, it's happening. It's happening at this moment. Boys and girls are being exploited, even by boys and girls' own parents, to have inappropriate relationships with other adults, any adult. And those adults providing, again, scholarships, entries into to schools, knowledge about work and service and connections, and additionally, it's going on at this very moment. And so the consideration, and it's effective because the children who experience that, who become conditioned to it, to just eventually become even, I won't say voluntary because there's no voluntary within that, but become increasingly proactive in that kind of methodology, get advantages, they get connections, they get the scholarships, they get entries, they get the hookups, they get the jobs. And so how do parents who don't do that compete with that? How do parents prepare children who ain't going to be doing those nasty whatever? How do those children compete with the children who are doing it? And the children who are doing it, they don't want to. So it's not a matter of the children competing against the children, but how do the parents compete with the parents who are resorting to those methodologies? And so one of the considerations is calling out the pedophilia, and calling out the culture, calling out the cults, all right, and calling out the benefits and everything else like that. But in doing that, again, targetation, and further subjectivity towards persecution, isolation, and all that other type of stuff. So here's one consideration, and this is a very plain and simple kind of campaign that I invite kinfolk to partake of, to take up, which is this: hashtag professors against pedophilia. To go to university professors and to solicit university professors to openly, publicly, continually, trying to think of the appropriate word. Not just call out, but to not to denigrate. Wow, for professors to not just criticize. It's not outlaw, lambast, denounce. For professors at universities, tenured, established professors, to publicly, openly, thoroughly denounce the practice of pedophilia. Plain, that should be a no-brainer. And in doing that, that's like the epitome of what the pedophilia culture is promoting, is that attainment of higher education, the elitism, and all the lucrative offers, jobs, occupations, connections that are facilitated through those affiliations. So it should be a no-brainer in public discourse for professors to denounce pedophilia. But in doing that, it's denouncing that culture, that subculture that's very quiet, that's very influential, and additionally. And so it is a very telling thing what professors are willing to do that and what professors are not, because that's testimony right there. That's a litmus test. And that calls out, peace and blessings to you. That calls out things point blank, on spot. So right there, professors against pedophilia. For university professors to openly, publicly, thoroughly denounce the practice of pedophilia. We don't even have to define what pedophilia is. We know what it is. We don't have to categorize it. We don't have to qualify it. No. Professors against pedophilia. Plain and simple. If people want to talk about that, people can talk about the details, but no, plain and simple. Professors against pedophilia. Which professors are going to sign on to whatever the hashtag methodologies are, whatever else. But plain and simple, professors against pedophilia. Those that do are helping to heal the methodology and heal the credibility of universities. Those that don't, let that speak for itself. There it is. But we can cultivate a culture that is increasingly proactively proper, and any insufficiency in cultivating that culture just further progresses, fast forwards the eventuality of the eroding of the status quo of corruption. So that's what it is. That's what's up. That's what's down. That's what's happening. Peace and blessings. All thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim Jah. Blessed love. Peace.